Hello and welcome to Dice Punks, a tabletop role-playing podcast where we focus on playing full campaigns in less well-known systems. This week in episode 46, many of the survivors of the war so far are assembled. How will they make use of the opportunity? Hello and welcome. I'm Adam, your friendly neighborhood game master, and joining me are...
Hey, I'm Drew, and I'll be playing Leorian Guitar, Viscount of Tempo, V-follower of Dosk, and V-friend to some other people you're about to hear from.
Hi, I'm Robin, and I'll be playing Lyssa Crate, the salacious and shard-seeking Furious Queen.
I'm Dez, and I will be playing Romnet, a purveyor of very fine adventures.
Excellent.
To make Adam's job in the show notes harder.
I regret not saying the Furious Queen.
Ooh, yeah.
We'll fix it in post.
Yeah,
sure.
Every editor's favorite phrase.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we were just talking about how likely that is to actually happen.
Spoiler, not very.
So let's see. Let's get, if we could, our recap of last time, this time courtesy of Lyssa.
Hey, Dosk. By the time you get this prayer, you should have received all of the Timothys and Boar. They looked a little lost, so Romnet and myself helped them out. Romnet also completed the 100 eternal deaths that enchancelled Fermata, bringing both sides of the city together. You would have been so impressed by him if you could have seen it. Wait, did you see it? Is that how the whole godly omnipotence thing works? Are you omnipotent? Are all the other gods omnipotent? Well, damn it. I have questions, as I'm sure you do, and we're both still getting used to this whole arrangement. Anyway, we ran into the missing Cirthan visitor. Apparently, he had been cut off from Cirtha, but before we could get any real information out of him, we were instead directed towards the main square by darkness. There, we found what appeared to be an imperator with Mott's remaining shards attempting to reclaim Fermata. That imperator turned out to be none other than Brother Umber, except that he literally lost his head this time rather than just figuratively. An upgrade, if you ask me. Namely, he had madness, which resulted in me destroying Fury rather than creating it, which was boring. I was not just ready, but eager to take darkness back, and, well, I'm sure you're too familiar with the means through which that happens. Speaking of things changing with my management, my tattoo has been acting a little funny. It's weird that something miraculously formed appears to be healing, but it did provide me a useful tug in the direction of Moxie and Kea and all the darkness. After sucking all the energy out of Umber's party, the shards were removed from him from some external force, and Romnet gifted him with a faster rest than the alternative. We're not sure where the shards have gone, but we can reasonably suspect that Cillian's hand was in this. But that doesn't explain why Umber felt like an imperator rather than a demigod. Anyway, the whole cult thing seems to be coming along rather well. From Umber's display, we were able to enlist more to our cause. Philia and Ramulus joined us, and Philia even made a lovely rainbow from her rain. It was one of those moments that I wish I could stretch out forever, with Apatia and Kea, friends and allies surrounding me. But you and I know that time is running out, and we have a throne to destroy.
Thank you very much.
I love
Excellently
that.
done.
Also, I want to steal that mission reports in the form of prayers shtick.
Please do.
Good shtick.
By all means, yeah. Before we get into it, is there any XP expenditure going on?
Yes, if I recall correctly from last time. Pardon me while I get the document open.
All good.
Yeah, I'm getting myself a sense of direction.
Excellent.
But also, before that, I need to roll some dice.
You do.
That is a pair of 10.
Pair of 10s. This experience point is made of aged ivory, carved intricately with abstract patterns that make you think of the sea.
If you hold it up to your ear, you do not hear the sea, but you do hear sea shanties.
I'm tempted to spend points.
I would say give into that temptation.
Yeah, because we don't know how long we have left, so it makes sense for me to go ahead and expend my 2 mortal experience points to upgrade my dodge to 2 plus a master die. Can't touch this. Gotta continue that theme.
Please, Lys's hammer.
I think I will also upgrade my oratory to 2.
All right. Has gotten some mileage lately.
Do I want to do empathy?
Could use more dice.
Or dodge? I'm sorry. I'm indecisive.
I think I probably have empathy covered.
Okay, because it's a 2 dice total, including sense, plus my master die for that.
Yeah, you have a master die there, which is pretty fun.
Yeah, whereas dodge would be 4
Also,
plus the master die now.
Yes, but when you're dodging, that's probably important.
Yes.
When you're empathizing, my 7 and the master die can probably
We got this.
cover us.
Thank you.
I think I will
right.
also... I've been having some issues inspiring and intimidating, so one or the other could probably use a zhuzh, as it were. If I were to up command as opposed to inspire or intimidate, that would be how many points again?
5.
That'd be 5? Yeah, let me just do that.
That'd be 10.
Oh, that'd be 10. Okay.
10,
I thought it was 10. Yeah, let me go with inspire. But up that to 4.
That'll be 4 XP to up that to 4.
So
Yeah, no, raising command would have been helpful, but it's
yeah, no,
expensive.
I'm not going to assume that I will be saving enough pennies. That the penny saving process will extend long enough to make that a possibility.
Yeah, and it might, but it also might not.
Yeah, fair.
All right. So we rejoin the action of our session here in that plaza. The waning light of day casting the city into a more familiar but yet less unnatural darkness as water from the rain Philia brought sort of pools on the cobbles. The canals are a little choppier than they've been before thanks to Rimalus's presence. And the flowers, the silver metallic flowers around the plaza have withered and wilted and died. As I mentioned in sort of the little intro, this is as much an assemblage of the surviving characters to this point in the campaign as we've had yet. There are a few named people who aren't here, obviously, Anchors and Dosk, a few others, but the Sirthans. But this is as much as an assembly as we've had, and most of the Fermatans, other than sort of what I might loosely term your inner circle, are sort of filtering back to their daily lives, homes, businesses, activities, leaving the square not empty but much sparser, and allowing you kind of a moment to breathe. I'll go ahead and say here that I am going to be leaving it somewhat to chance, sort of what exactly is happening as time advances here. So whatever you would like to accomplish, in the next couple minutes, maybe in the next couple days, this is a good time to plan for it. I don't often give us this mechanical insight so directly, but I am going to be rolling sort of on my end to see what happens.
I think I'm quite concerned with the state of our various cults, but my cult in particular. So let's see.
The state of cults is concerning, yes.
The state of cults ought to concern everybody, I suppose, but us especially, and especially right now. I don't want to jupe into Furagi if I might destroy a performance, but then again, I'm probably better suited to help with this particular task than with most. I guess as far as I knew, she was staying in Nema for a little longer. So let me actually, if I could, jupe into Pelog, the proprietress of the Tides Are Past, the venue where I was a bit of a gadfly recently.
Indeed. Yeah. Just before we get to that scene, I'm going to check in with our others.
For sure.
It sounds, and correct me if I'm wrong there, that Leorian will be zooping into Pelog from the square, kind of in this quiet moment after all this other stuff. But I want to kind of see what our other two may be getting up to.
I'll be checking in with Kea to make sure she was okay with all the darkness.
I will summarize the interaction you have with her as her thanking you for Moxie and excitedly telling you about how she was able to brave the darkness to help Lady Apatia thwart those villains in the square just now. This conversation will last as long as you wish to indulge the retelling of Kea's experience here.
I indulge it as long as I can without Philia getting bored and wandering off.
Fair enough. Ramnat, anything in particular?
I am circulating among what is hopefully now our cult.
Mm-hmm. Any particular angle, or just sort of, listening in, glad-handing?
Presence. If there are concerns, I'm happy to hear them. That all of that sort of thing.
All right. So, Leorian, you sort of lean back against the pedestal that the statue, now mostly destroyed, was on, and you will yourself into the presence and consciousness of Pelog, the proprietress of the Tides Repast, which we've seen previously. And let's see, it's evening. She is currently in the back of her venue, leaning against the wall, arms crossed, a faint scowl on her face, which is the expression that you remember her with most often, as she surveys the evening's crowd and listens to the first sort of what you might call prime time performance, of the evening.
Anyone I recognize?
It's a good time for a roll. No. Newcomer as far as you're concerned. The fellow on the stage is on the young side, a little sallow looking, very pale, with dark hair and dark circles under dark eyes, wearing dark clothes with a dark half cape and silver accents, incongruously playing a concertina and singing in a fairly competent tenor, a song that you would more expect to hear in a dockside tavern, but with the gravitas of something more refined.
Do not be alarmed when you hear your voice speak, I say low, with my words. It's Leorian. You've got a nose for talent as ever.
Pelog tenses, but does not otherwise immediately react, and then relaxes sort of very deliberately and silently turns on her heel and walks to the stairs that you know to lead up to her office and living quarters. As she closes the door to her office behind her, she turns to a small mirror mounted on the wall and glares at her reflection and says, I almost hope this isn't actually Leorian. This is some sort of prank possession. What do you want?
Well, thank you for asking, and on a certain level, good to know that the scowl is not just for me. I would like, if my sister is still around, for you to convey a message. So I suppose, first and foremost, is she?
Well, she begged off of her performances to go gallivanting or something. She may still be in town, but I don't know where to find her. I'm assuming this is your doing. Never content to let me run a business, are you?
Well, art and business, of course, do intersect, but there's a divergence. That's a discussion for another day, perhaps over drinks, which I owe you many of. Thank you. Do you know, well, I suppose I can find her. I'm sorry that I left when I did. How I did.
Oh, well, you know, I'm sure that would make it all better. At least if you came back, brought the loot back, repaid me for those drinks you owe me. I'm told you added one to the tab recently.
The loot's not coming back, but I owe those drinks. Have a very good evening, and thank you for your assistance. And if I should say, yeah, goodbye.
You leave as she's opening her mouth to shout something that you don't actually hear. And you are back in your own body around about the time that Kaya's conversation is winding down a little bit. Philia, for her part, Lissa, is hanging back a little bit and seems nonplussed by how little attention she's drawing. A reminder to our listeners, Philia's appearance is that of a drowned child. Heavily waterlogged and not all of that comforting to look at. But this is Fermata, even though it's not a chancellor anymore, people don't really take note of that kind of thing so much. And she seems to be simultaneously resenting and enjoying the lack of attention.
I shoot her a smile as I am listening to Kaya, just to make sure that she knows that I'm aware that she's there and plan on kind of like making my way over to her later.
Mm-hmm. She gives sort of a... you read the shrug she gives you as embarrassed, and sort of just leans against a wall and looks around. It's still raining, but it's less of a downpour than it was, more of like a steady drizzle. And Rimalus has been ranging all over the city, seeming to just be exploring, as kind of makes sense for his personality and his estate. And you know this because the wind is going in unpredictable directions over and through the buildings. In any case, Kaya's breathless recounting of events winds down, and she looks faintly embarrassed. A little color rises to her cheeks, and she says, "Anyway, Milady Lissa, I'm pleased to have finally been able to help you. At least I hope it was helpful."
It was very helpful.
Will you be staying in town, perchance?
As much as I would like to, I'm not sure if I will have much of an opportunity. It seems that forces are moving quickly and we have much to do and much power to obtain.
She tentatively reaches out and sort of touches your neck where your tattoo is. And she says, "Perhaps you could at least stay the night, being as it's already dark.
I see no harm in that. I have a...
Thad speaks up from behind her and goes, "Righteous party!"
Bye! It's been a great campaign. I'm done.
Robin has left the shop.
Kea, for her part, doesn't look at him, but sort of like kind of slaps the middle of his chest with the back of her knuckles and goes, "Hush, Thad. I was being serious." And he goes, "Sorry, I was too, but I'll, right. Sorry." And he turns around and tries to find something to busy himself with.
The deep breath is completely out of character. If I reach out, do I sense that I have any anchors currently?
That's a really good and interesting question. Yeah, you can reach out to both of your anchors.
Oh.
You can sense them there.
Okay, so they're still there, and
Yeah. You couldn't when you first awakened, but currently Varric feels as much as he always has, and Rowena, you can sense her there. It's a little foggy.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, your anchor senses are functioning seemingly as normal.
Excellent. And there's room for one more.
Mm-hmm.
So before I take my leave of Kea for now, I will... I'm trying to figure out how to phrase this without it coming across as too, as my intro said, salacious, but I have a question for you, and I want you to think it over before saying yes or no.
Oh, well, of course, my lady.
So, part of this whole demigod thing is that I can connect myself to people and briefly see through their eyes and kind. They have access to, I assume anyway, haven't put it to the test fully yet, but my power.
Oh.
Would you like to become one of my anchors?
Well, I'm certainly willing to take some time to mull it over, my lady, if you'd like me to, but I'd love to.
Yeah, I thought that might be your answer, but I do want you to think it over because I'm not feeling as mortal as I used to when we first met, and I'm aware that there's a bit of a power difference between the two of us, so you can feel free to say no without any consequence, and know that I tend to knock first. You can ask Varric if you need any confirmation of that. I try not to catch people at inopportune times, but with things shaping up the way they have been, I think it would make me feel better if I had some sort of way for you to reach out if anything were to happen here, and that way you can also help spread the good word of Dosk.
Don't sweat it too much. I'm going to ask you to roll Charm plus Graces, 5 dice.
Okay. I have to remember which were my good dice. 2 10s.
2 10s. Kea is grinning ear to ear, and she reaches up to put a hand like on each of your like upper arms, sort of like in a combination gesture of affection and reassurance. And she says, "My lady, I'd not have been interested in the first place if I thought you were like to abuse your power, and the fact that you're powerful is one of the reasons why I find you so appealing. So, yeah, it's perhaps not the kind of thing Mama would have thought I'd have ended up with for a love life, but no, I'd be honored and thrilled and, well, It'd only have been a problem if you weren't honest about it at the first, but we both got acquainted knowing exactly where we stood, and I feel like I still do. Do you?
Yeah, because I still, powers and all, view you as standing on the exact same footing as me, albeit maybe a foot shorter.
Oh, it's more than a foot shorter, milady, but, well, again, part of what caught my eye, and she looks down and blushes a little bit. She says, the way I see it, milady, I don't know the whole story with all of the gods and whatnot, but it sure seems like we're all in this together, and if I can be of some help, I'd love to be, and if it helps me get a little closer to you, then that's so much the better as well.
Can part of the deal be that you drop the milady?
I'm going to make a roll. That was a 9. So she's wearing mostly the same attire that you saw her in when you first met her, minus the apron.
Mm-hmm.
So she has sort of like this collarbone neckline, and she blushes from her neckline all the way up to her hairline and looks down into one side, and she says, what if I like calling you milady?
We can come up with pet names that suit both of us.
Well, then I suppose I can agree to that. And she pauses with her mouth partway open, forming the words milady, but she skips it and she says, Lissa.
Good girl. I had to wait until you were taking a sip of water to do
She bites her lip until it turns white and tries her best not to shiver. She doesn't quite succeed.
I will make my way to Philia with a wink to her.
As you make your way over to Philia, you hear Kea loudly go talk to Apatia about getting her settled somewhere comfortable for the evening. Philia looks up at your approach. She doesn't say anything in particular to start the conversation off, but she has a smirk that makes it clear that she was tracking your conversation with Kea.
I respond with a smirk that says, I know you're paying attention, but instead say, thank you, Philia. Your help was appreciated, and it's good to see you.
I am surprised to find that I'm sincere when I say it's good to see you too. I wish I could have been here in time to help more, but the ocean is large, and well, my influence over it doesn't extend that far into the swamp, unfortunately. Thank you for your, and she gestures around at Fermata, welcome and hospitality, I suppose. I know we certainly didn't get off on the right foot, but as immortals, I suppose we have to be willing to learn and grow. She gives sort of a bitter laugh at the word grow.
Yeah, I am sorry for the foot we got off on, but I'm happy with where we've ended up. I take it that you had the chance to speak with Dagum about the matter of things?
She shrugs one shoulder and says, well, I left a message for Dagum, but the deep is currently a little withdrawn. I suspect it's a protective mechanism. He seems very aware of his status as one of the last half dozen or so. And is not as confident in his position as I think he'd like to be, which does give us an opportunity, but also, well, I'm sure your previous god, was similar. The deep is not very much like people, and doesn't really operate on a person's schedule or have any idea of what might be considerate or inconsiderate for a person.
That's fair. And if there's anything we can do to help safeguard him, since it seems we're facing a shared threat at this point in time.
Philia looks conflicted for a moment and then sort of takes a deep breath, which is a very unsettling sound from a waterlogged mobile corpse. And she says, I feel that time grows short, and despite everything, you've dealt square with us in the past, so one of Dagum's strengths is that he is one with his estate. His chancel is all of the deepest parts of the ocean, and the denizens of the deep are virtually extensions of his will, with minimal personal autonomy, myself and Rymulus excluded only because of our sovereign power. This means that he's tremendously powerful in his realm, but it also makes him vulnerable. He can't move or change. More so than other imperators, he must express his estates. He is controlled by them as much as he controls them. And I don't know how much you know about the deep, but it is alien to the world of people, and it is indifferent in the extreme. Dagum can be motivated by self-interest, but the fastest pace that anything happens is the tides. And even that is rare. I can't guarantee that he'll come to any particular decision, even if I think he will decide that it's in his best interest to align with you, but I can almost promise you that he'll do it too late. I wish I had better news.
I appreciate your transparency, particularly about his decision-making. And you also are uniquely poised for the autonomy of choice.
She gives a slow nod and she says, like the deep sea, my master is uncaring, but that does cut both ways. So, hopefully, whatever I do will go unnoticed until he has decided to tread the same path. She gives a nod that seems forced in its decisiveness and says, you know, I got used to sleeping in a bed under a roof while I was in Theret. Are there inns here? How normal a city is this?
It is normal in all the ways that will provide you comfort, and just abnormal enough to provide you comfort in ways you may not find in mortal cities.
She nods a little and she says, you know, precious little liquor is brewed on the bottom of the sea.
How about that drink I offered when we first met?
She gives you a waterlogged grin that, despite your best efforts, makes your stomach turn a little bit, but you manage to keep it off your face. And she says, I'd love to. She looks up directly and says, How about it, big guy? I know you have trouble with the indoors, but I'm sure we could throw a little whiskey into the wind. And you hear Rhinelis's voice from a ways off go, "That sounds most agreeable." So, Ramnat, by the time Lissa is finishing with her conversations, you have spoken to most of the people remaining in the square who are interested in speaking to you. It's been mostly very low key. You've just been a little bit reassuring, a little bit authoritative, showing an interest in kind of, their comments and questions, most of which have just been about like, should I go somewhere else? Should I do something special? And you're just like, hey, keep nothing in your thoughts, bro, except less youth pastory.
Yeah, more ominous, less youth pastor.
As people filter out of the square, are you taking it upon yourself to do anything in particular, or just kind of hanging out waiting for everybody else to finish?
I think mostly hanging out. All
right. Leorian, you have come back from visiting Pelog in the middle of, some conversations your compatriots are doing. Do you have anything else you wish to accomplish before departing the square?
Well, if we have the time, the somewhat utter failure of the interaction with Pelog made me realize who I really need to check in with and who I've been putting off checking in with since I realized I had anchors, and that would be Kelio.
All right. So I take that to mean you wish to check in with Kelio.
No, but yes.
All right. Would you like to enlighten our listeners who may or may not have remember hearing you mention this name a while ago now? Who is Kelio?
Kelio is a dancer in the troupe that I was once a part of, the House of the Discerning Patron, brother to Aldry, whose drum I still carry, who was killed in the siege of Calavan. That is, Aldry was, not Kelio. If I could have a dead anchor, that would raise more questions.
Indeed it would.
Kelio really wanted the troupe to break up. I didn't want it to break up, but then this whole demigodhood thing sort of rendered the conversation moot, and I do not, in character, have any idea where he is or what he's doing at this point.
Indeed you do not. So, do you...
Yeah, I do the Joop, tentatively. I attempt a knock, which I believe is a thing Lissa does.
Okay. I need to know how you attempt this, because Lissa, as far as I'm aware, has never explained anything about this to you, other than that it's a thing that she does.
That it is good to be polite. I think what I try to do, and whether this is a thing I'm capable of doing or not is, of course, out of my hands. I think I try to do the divine equivalent of passing in one of those notes kids pass in class. Do you like me? Yes, no. Would you like to talk to Leorian? Yes, no, on a slip of paper. The closest thing I can achieve to that is what I try.
All right.
Incredible.
The sense... So sticking with the metaphor, and again, it is a loose correlation here. But sticking with the metaphor, the sense that you get back is if you had passed a note that said, "Do you like me? Yes, no." If you had gotten back that slip of paper with a giant question mark, exclamation point, question mark, exclamation point scribbled over the whole thing.
Double rainbow?
Well, that's not a yes, but it's emphatically not a no. This doesn't help at all. I think I tentatively Joop. I don't say anything. I see what the situation is, and I'm ready to withdraw if the vibe is that's what's desired.
The scene before you is a modest but clean and comfortable room in an inn, you know not where, lit by a relatively nice but very aged oil lamp on the table next to the bed. Kelio is sitting on the bed facing the writing table. Kelio's pulse is a little high. You can feel a little bit of a thrum of adrenaline in his system as you zoop in, and you can feel him become aware of your presence behind his eyes as he stiffens rigid on the bed and starts breathing through his teeth.
I didn't want to do this without asking, but I also didn't know how to ask. This is Leorian, in you, and I will leave immediately if that is what you would prefer.
There are a series of rapid breaths through Keelio's teeth, and then a deeper breath. I can't deny that I might like you to leave, but I am more curious as to what is going on.
Well, there's quite a bit, actually. We parted ways, as you'll recall, and I am performing with a different troupe, as it were. I'm something of a demigod now. That's not a metaphor.
Keelio barks a laugh in the middle of those two statements. You're using the same mouth, so it's a little strange.
Stipulated. If you're wondering where Aldry's drum is, I kept it, repaired it. Actually, I thought it was beyond repair, but it turned out it wasn't. And I'm sorry, I said his name, but I know what happened to him. I even know something of why. And my path, the best I can do, I suppose, is to keep such things from happening again. Ever. Again.
Upon the conclusion of your statement, Keelio takes a few shaky breaths and sort of flexes one hand by his side a couple of times. And he says, Demigod, I suppose the powers that be have a sense of humor after all.
I can confirm that, yeah.
I would like my brother's drum back, please.
Yeah, that's achievable. Where are you? Where are we? Where is this?
At the moment, I'm in Tiva. I'm auditioning.
Break a leg? In the interest of full and complete honesty, I may need to use the drum to kill a few more gods, but then it's yours. Free and clear.
Of course. You said you might have known why my brother died?
Yeah. Well, I suppose the short answer is the very gods themselves. The order I'm trying to overthrow. There's a longer answer, but it may be better in person, and maybe when I can present you with something tangible along with information. Yeah, this is before an audition. I don't want to throw you off your game.
Shut up. The gods killed my brother?
Well, yes. A war between them. He was caught in the crossfire, and as it were, I know I'm saying as it were a lot, but we function in metaphor. But his death wasn't, of course, metaphorical at all. It was wrong place, wrong time. No better reason than that, but those who made the place and the time wrong can be denied that power. And I'm trying.
Well, I'll take you up on that explanation. You'll buy the drinks. Why do you get to be a demigod and my brother gets to be dead?
Well, I suppose the gods have a sense of humor, but no real sense of justice.
Well, fuck the gods.
So, yeah, I mean, precisely, actually. That's just it. I mean it when I say we can undo all of this. The world makes no sense, and it's unfair. And I don't know if I can make it fair, but I can end the thing that made it unfair in the specific way that it's currently unfair. Everything's wrong, and I can't give you back anything you've lost, and I don't expect you to forgive me for any of it, but I would like to make things righter, juster, if no less funny.
Leorian, I've never known you to be anything but earnest. Stupid, sure, but not anything but earnest.
Thank you.
I am wiser than to seek revenge, especially against the gods. And I know nothing can bring my brother back. But if you can do anything to undermine that which killed him, you have my cooperation. I can promise to be unpleasant about it.
Well, as a matter of fact, mine is the god of nothing. And, well, any art, music, thought that negates the other gods, that celebrates the possibility of a world without them. And I think at this particular moment, anything that sees the current order as a form of madness to be undone will lend quite real power to the cause.
Madness I have in spades, Leorian.
Yeah, I know. That's okay. But I think there's something past madness. I think there's a beautiful clarity in knowing how unjust things are. Yeah, so if you can't go against madness, then hey, who am I to judge? But if you can be as unpleasant as you desire and as you're able about the gods, that actually would, I know this sounds crazy, but be of immediate material help. Especially if you do it through art.
He reaches over to the bedside table near the bed he's sitting on and picks up a flask. You've never really known Kilio to be a heavy drinker. You know, he'll drink to a toast. But he takes a swig from the flask, and you feel it burn on the way down. He caps it, puts it back on the bedside table, and says, "Well, I suppose we'll see if I get this gig. If I do, then I'll do what I can from here. If I don't, suppose my time is as well spent as anything, disparaging the gods. You are among them, yes? I can disparage you and it will be perfectly helpful."
I guess you would demi-disparage me. I suppose if you disparage my godhood specifically, no real challenge there. If, after all, it's a form of injustice in itself, that would be fine.
Think I can get on board with that. He stands up from the bed and runs a hand through his hair and says, "Well, this has been neither pleasant nor unpleasant, which is as high a compliment as I can give an interaction with you. Do you require anything else of me, or shall I get to my audition?"
No, I'll take the compliment such as it is. Knock him dead. I'll try to do the same.
He gives a terse smile, and then you withdraw. I will say that syncs up with about the end of Lyssa's conversations. You are, all of you, present once again in the square. It's thinned out. The people remaining there are the three of you, Kea, Thad, Ilona, and Apatia, and Varric. There are a couple of Fermatans moving around in it, but none of them simply standing in the way that the others are.
I'm definitely taking a moment to compose myself. I'm probably not especially composed.
Drinks then? While we can?
Yes.
Are you good, Leorian?
I think so.
You look like
so.
you need a hug.
I take that.
I give you a big hug.
Des, were you saying something? You weren't facing the microphone.
I just muttered, UNStas Sumos. You're welcome, Adam.
Two very different emotional registers, my friends. I accept the hug gladly and I return it. I don't know if we've ever done the math as far as whether my face is in Lissa's abs or what's happening here.
Actually,
I don't think I'm that
what?
short.
This is a great time for that. Let me scroll up to the appropriate part of your character sheet.
I don't think
Leorian, you are 5'11", and Lissa, you are 6'7".
Okay.
So I think probably Leorian, I don't mean to be that kind of anime, but I think your face is directly in Lissa's cleavage.
But I am, as a tall person, you are attuned to that sort of thing, so she ducks.
Certainly. Yeah.
Yes.
Very fair. Very
She does
fair.
the awkward tall duck hug.
Very good. I accept it all the more gratefully for the emotional awareness of that, and it's taken in the spirit it was intended.
It's mostly pecs there anyway, for being honest.
It's true.
Sure.
Didn't catch that, Des?
I said Romnut is just quietly off on the side.
Naturally. Kea says, almost perfectly in unison with Thad, so, to the nightcap then?
To the nightcap.
Do we know
Thad
where...
does like a little fist pump, like, yes!
Do we know where it is? That it still is?
Everybody starts looking at one another.
I take that as a no.
Well, I mean, who's got a sense plus direction?
Hey, look at me.
Oh, good.
I could roll 2 as a supporter, what have you. This is 6 dice for me, Des, for reference.
I will roll my solitary die.
Same. We've got the same pool for that.
Yeah, let's all roll sense plus direction.
Nice.
A pair of 5s and a pair of 4s.
I've got 3 4s.
Right.
Well, since speed is width of set, probably go with his.
Leorian, you take the lead and you set out. You're pretty sure it's this away, and everybody in the group follows you, and you only take 1 or 2 wrong turns before you find yourself on a familiar street, and sure enough, there it is, the nightcap. You walk in, and, well, you know, Kea knew she wasn't there. She wasn't really scheduled to be there. Circumstances being what they have been lately. But you're all a little surprised to see Evine behind the bar. Apron on, towel over her shoulder, hair in a bun. She looks as happy and as animated as you've seen her.
I rush behind the bar and give her a hug.
She goes, oh, hello. Hello, Lady Lissa. Welcome. Can I get you something to drink?
The stiffest drink that you've got.
She gives you a very deliberate set of elevator eyes and goes, oh, aye. And grabs a glass. The rest of you?
Yeah, stiffest drink you've got. Maybe a shorter pour than hers, though, if you would be so good.
I give Avian a conspiratorial look and nod at shorter pour.
I've had a difficult day, but I do know my limits.
You were verging very close to your Halloween character voice there.
I was. All this sadness and mumbling. Yeah, I got. Yeah.
Evine looks to Romnet and looks down a little bit and says with a fair bit of somewhat forced joviality, "And for you, Lord Prophet?"
Cider, if you have one.
Why?
Thank you.
Kea and Thad and Ilona and Apacia and Varric all put in their orders, and
Philia.
Evine busies herself. Oh, thank you. Yes, Philia as well. Puts in her order and Rimulus's order.
Yes.
And
Whiskey to be thrown out a window.
Indeed.
Would that we had a whiskey firehouse.
But I would pay handsomely for whatever whiskey we do throw outside to ensure that it is good enough for our
For what it's
weather
worth,
pattern.
Philia did order 2 drams of your finest whiskey as her order. And Evine busies herself pouring. Everybody makes themselves at home inside of the nightcap. So everybody has had their drinks. Philia wandered outside and threw some whiskey up into the wind.
I joined her and threw a little bit of fury up with the whiskey too.
Mm-hmm. You hear Rimulus's laughter on the wind as it carries the whiskey away.
Any that falls to the ground, I murder.
You know what? There is exactly 1 drop that is the recipient of this treatment.
What becomes of
Rimulus.
whiskey?
That's going to have to be, I think, the subject of a later epilogue episode of some kind.
It seemed the thing to do at the time.
Like, usually when I talk about murdering whiskey, it's through consumption.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. But, this too is exempt from St. Peter's Barrel.
Yeah.
Is there anything in particular that anybody in particular is trying to accomplish during the camaraderie and drinking?
I'm leaning into the normalcy of it for once.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think if anything, I take in the drink with full relish, and I likewise taking in the normalcy as well, allow myself to picture a world where we've already succeeded in our task.
Mm-hmm.
Whether that has any metaphysical weight, I have no idea, but it probably helps me as a being with a brain.
I likely pick up on, and feel free to make me roll for this, but I might pick up on some of Leorian's wistfulness and start to, not in a way that's really overbearing, but encourage him to refill his glass and be supportive in his consumption and leaning into the normalcy.
Sure, roll a sense plus empathy, 2 plus a master die. Do be aware there is a minimum height here.
Hold on. Oh, damn. Actually, that's appropriate. I thought I was going to add to the 6 in triplicate, but I got 69, so I'm going to have 2 9s.
Okay.
I am actively working against considering a future beyond winning or losing this thing, which is part of why I am not reaching out to my brother.
Fair enough. So
the vibes, I think, for me are, if I may, based on that roll, nice.
Yeah, seems like. As the evening wears on and the drinks continue to flow, Thad gravitates towards Romnet. And there's a little bit of a coterie around Lissa of Kea, Oedipatia, and Leorian.
I probably tried to, at one point, drunkenly wipe some of the blood off of Apatia's face in a way that I feel is flirtatious.
Let me make a roll.
There is so much loaded in that statement.
There is.
To all indications, her response to this is also fairly flirtatious, and you can't help but notice, Kea doing a lot of blushing and glancing sideways as the evening wears on. Philia drinks a lot, but doesn't super get drunk. At a certain point, in a somewhat tipsy phase, though, announces that she is going to go outside and stand in the storm. And everybody sort of looks at each other and looks at her and it's like, yeah, you know.
Oh, yeah.
And you can watch her for the next half hour or more outside of the window, doing various poses in the rain as it picks up and lets off, and thunders and lightnings and then stops.
I don't join her for the full 30 minutes. But initially when she says that, it becomes the best idea on the planet, and I throw whatever fury I can into making it more dramatic.
Kea, Oedipatia, and Ilona all accompany you when you go outside. Varric, for his part, has taken up a seat at the interior end of the bar and is drinking beer and ale like it is less than air, like it's air, not so much water. He's just going through it, and just sort of chuckling to himself as he surveys the various goings-on in the common room. Eventually, the night winds to a close. Everybody retires as they wish to. I'd love to get a roll, actually, from Romnet. You have your romantic outlaw charm, which allows you to roll graces, a fascinating set of graces. So give me 4 plus a master die.
Sure thing. That is 2 becomes 3 9s.
You are pretty sure by the end of the evening that you've become Thad's role model.
Good. He can use a better role model.
Some dudes really just need a better example, honestly.
God's help, 1, me, 2, him, and 3, once I'm done, everyone else.
I feel like being really into murder would be an upgrade for him by a lot of people's
really
lives.
No. This isn't going to be about murder. This is going to be about, like, flirting and, like, people and time and sophistication management, and 3, spycraft.
None of this sounds bad. This all sounds like a vast improvement.
But it's all being put onto a chassis of Thad.
Look, all I'm saying is that by the time he sort of slumps onto the table with a peaceful look on his face, you have had a couple hours of conversation where he's hanging on your every word.
Good.
Look forward
We
to
all agree that the interior of Thad is not the problem. It's the Thadness of the Thad.
Soon we'll know if the problem was the vessel or just how empty it was.
Incredible, Drew.
Tune in for our spin-off Himbo Spycraft next season.
The sequel to this campaign is...
You heard it here first. Adam did not co-sign this message.
I guess my question to Drew, Leorian, how does a aggressively normal evening for you end up after drinking this much with friends?
Oh, I'm absolutely playing music at some point, taking requests. That's the only way for it to feel truly normal. I keep enough of myself about myself that I don't allow my loot to go concussive, as it now can. But the taking of requests is key.
Roll 7 plus an expert die for perform music.
Oh, sweet. Okay. So, I was going to say I go out and dance, but I think this roll will also determine how that looks.
That is 3 6s. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
With the expert die.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
So, you find that when you perform, that's very normal until it's not, and then it's weirdly intense and weirdly not percussive in the sense that you would do damage with it, but like the shimmering intricacy with which you can play the lute at some point gives way to a sort of raw immediacy, at which point more people get up to dance.
I relish in it, and I'm quite careful not to knock them over with the lute player. Figuratively, yes. Literally, no. I put some stank on it, as it were.
We do also work in metaphor, as has been established.
Indeed.
I'm also going to rule with that roll. By the time you wind down for the evening, you have just a small handful of what could be facetiously described as groupies, people whose attention is mostly on you and your music playing, and who are very interested to talk to you and buy you drinks after you're done.
Well done. I salute you.
I relish in their attention. However, that relish is but the flicker of a candle compared to the incandescent star of how much I appreciate Lissa, of all people, recognizing my accomplishment.
It is a little bit surreal for you, Leorian, because these are from Mottons. So there's a young woman who has a lizard-like frill, and a young man who has frog-like eyes and fingers, and a young NB who has amphibious external gills arrayed around their face, all breathlessly complimenting you on your primal musicianship as they buy you drinks.
I suppose I ask myself whether these features are attractive, and I think I come to the conclusion that at least some of them, broaden my horizons. It's a big wide world out there, and this is not the strangest thing I've seen since becoming a demigod. So I engage them on their topics. I maintain an air of cool, but I don't try to be too cool. I take off my cool when appropriate and let them into the process. I talk about the primal nature of real music and where it has to come from.
You are not overly inebriated, but there is a point where your attention sort of goes a little sideways and you become extremely aware of the tempo of each of their pulses, beating just out of time, but all somewhat rapidly. And you don't quite swoon onto the bar, but you do find yourself sort of like shaking it off as the handful of them are helping you up the stairs. With a little bit of worry about your overall health. I'll leave it to each person to describe exactly the state in which they turn in, but I will say that Leorian, you have your choice of company from among your fans. Rumnet, you basically get to tell Thad what to do with his evening. He is besotted by the time your conversation ends. And Lissa, you have, sort of two paramours with you, as well as Ilona, who is besotted with Apatia, sort of hanging around and trying to participate as much as she can, which honestly, like, everybody's pretty gracious and socially aware here. It's not that awkward. But it is one of those situations where bedtime gets put off by everybody trying to figure out exactly what bedtime means.
Or, which bedtime happens.
Mm-hmm.
That was implied.
What
in my
what's the
intent,
saying?
anyway.
I mean, I understand that it was implied, but that's part of the fun.
Fair enough. What's the saying?
Three's company, four's a crowd?
I don't, maybe? That sounds plausible.
I'm pretty sure somebody said that sometime, yeah.
Mm-hmm. I'm also trying to feel out the situation. Albeit drunkenly.
Yeah, I think I ascertain that all of my admirers who would like to stick around are of age and and possessed of their faculties and all of that. And then I make it clear that I've had quite a day and I would welcome company, but it may be something of a gentle experience for those who wish to stick around.
Sure. Everybody accompanies you upstairs. Some are asleep sooner than others. But the end result is that when you do wake it is, sort of, in a little bit, of a, surfeit of cuddles.
I
feel comfortable leaving it there for you.
Oh, nice. I have no idea in character how to go about making an anchor because I don't think that's come up in universe.
Sure. That's an interesting thing. Actually, you know what? I'm going to make it a roll because I always like to do that. Let me get from you. I'm looking at your character sheet. A sense plus eerie. 1 plus a master die.
I forgot about that master die. I was scared.
I suppose that Thad's attachment to me is probably a combination of my craving and my problem weirdness magnet.
I think that's fair to say, yeah.
So I think mostly I just indulge my craving, and Thad and I have a lovely night.
Fantastic.
Of course. Yeah, lovely.
I got a pair of sevens.
In case it has not... Oh, nice.
Pair of sevens, all right.
In case it has not been stated on the air, my craving is spending my downtime flirting and or sleeping my way through the male populace of Fermata.
And, Thad is your biggest fan currently.
And he is, in fact, the male populace of Fermata. Perhaps the malest populace.
There you go.
None more mailer.
So, Lissa, your evening takes a turn for the slightly surreal, I'm going to rule, in that you kind of intuit the method for creating an anchor here. And so you end up primarily giving any kind of attention to Kea because the procedure, that's the word I was looking for, from creating an anchor involves the exchange of fluid.
Mm-hmm.
Usually in the sort of rule book version of the rite, it is saliva. You accomplish that extraordinarily easily.
Mm-hmm.
But it is kind of interesting in that your evening kind of has an unusual layer of sacrality over it. And when you wake, it is with you sort of cuddled with Kea and with Ilona sort of cuddled with Apatia, though all of you are relatively close to one another. However, everyone's waking does not come with the morning.
Mm-hmm.
It comes with a series of shouts and screams from the street. I'm going to rule, based on the amount imbibed, that Romnet, you are the first to have your faculties about you.
Yes. Can we fiat that I'm making coffee when the screaming starts?
Certainly.
I will leave some for Thad, but I'm taking my coffee with me as I go investigate the screaming.
It's very easy to find what's happening. Exiting the front door, you find that there are figures emerging from the canals that are immediately attacking the nearest person to them.
What manner of figures are these, Adam?
Well, that's a really good question. It's still nighttime, which is a newish concept in Fermata, but seeing as you no longer have the, sort of backing of the holder of the Shard of Darkness, I am going to need you to roll a Sense plus Sight, which is for you is 6 dice, so you have a decent opportunity here.
That is 4 2s.
4 2s. You can't make out a ton of resolution of detail, but these appear to be people much like Fermatans, but somewhat unfocused and listless. And as soon as they perceive an individual in their perceptual range, they act aggressively.
Look with the sight, are they divine?
Interesting.
Divinely
No,
inflected.
but they may be the result of a miracle.
The reflections.
Is it I don't really have anything that could amplify my voice usefully.
True.
But I will just shout to get away from the canals then.
All right. And then no particular role there. You shout, "Get away from the canals!" And we will track over to Leo. Yep.
To the degree that any of these attacks are done with murderous intent, actually, I will destroy that intent.
Ah, interesting. Yeah, let's, if you want that to be locally, rather than throughout the entire city, that can be a lesser, destruction.
Yeah. Given the... given the state of my miracle points, I'm just going to be firing it off one at a time.
Okay. Yeah, you can do a lesser destruction for level 5, which for you for murder is going to be 1 miracle point. So if you spend 1 miracle point in domain, you can, in the general vicinity of yourself, essentially ensure that no one dies from this in the near term.
Good.
Indeed. Next to be alerted is Leorian. You kind of bolt awake to the sounds of tumult outside. For simplicity's sake, I'm going to rule that Leorian and Lissa both took rooms at the Nightcap, whereas Romnet, you and Thad retired to your house. So Leorian, you come awake to the sounds of shouts and cries of alarm from outside. You are cuddled, but that is not especially helpful in understanding what's going on.
Sure. I wriggle about and actually make sure to wake up whoever is sort of most easily wake upable. Let's say the lovely NB I met with the fish-like features, and say, "Stay here. Tell the others to stay here. I will see what's going on." And I rush downstairs.
They sort of non-sleepily, but seem to understand what you're saying. You rush downstairs, and bursting out of the front door, you see figures emerging from the canals.
And I assume similar. I mean, I don't know what Romnet saw, but I gauge that they mean no good, probably. Or okay, yeah.
Seems pretty hostile, yeah.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, first things first, they are emerging more slowly while we get a sense of things.
Perfect. Yeah, at least in your area. And then Lissa, you come awake a little slowly, having had probably the most to drink.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry. Wet hostels emerging in your area. I make no apology.
I didn't seek one.
I let it be known that I am fighting back a wet joke right now.
I was going to say, I wonder how many people I could get with that ad. Listen, you are the last to awake due to the commotion. And you sort of groggily emerge from a sort of deepish, languorous sleep. You can sort of observe that Kea is asleep with her head on your shoulder, her arms wrapped around your bicep. And there are two others, presumably Apatia and Ilona, sleeping nearby.
Oh,
but
Apatia's
you can hear
still asleep?
Indeed, yeah. You can hear cries of alarm from outside the nightcap.
I awaken Apatia as best I can without awakening the other two, and say, "It's time for violence."
You've always been better at one-liners than me.
Incredible.
Perfection.
So you sort of very carefully with your free arm reach out to Apatia and you sort of tap her on the tip of her nose 3 times and her eyes shoot open and you see them sort of like dilate and then focus on you. And before she can ask any questions, you say, "It's time for violence."
And I have a feigned smile as I say it, just going for the full effect here.
Yeah. And she gives you that predator grin full of sharp teeth, and seems to flow out of Ilona's grasp in a way that you can really only envy, as she sort of springs to her feet and casts about in the room for her various bits and pieces. In mere moments, she is wreathed in those trailing pieces of dark cloth that she now wears, and has eased her twin daggers into their sheaths in the small of her back.
As I see her do this, I hand her a small... It's a bit of, like, folded oilcloth. And say, "While we were searching for you, I made you a gift." And then quietly smile at her as I walk by towards the door.
She gives you a big grin and sort of unwraps the oilcloth to view what's inside. I assume this is those flechettes that you made from the bloodstone?
Yes.
Yeah. And because she has such high spirit, she manages to stay quiet as she sort of cackles, but you nevertheless perceive her mirth at this. And she discards the oilcloth as she finds places to stow the flechettes about her person and follows you out the door. So, Lissa, you emerge to find that Leorian is... Actually, I don't recall. Leorian, did you exit the building?
Yeah, I did. I'm dead.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just making sure. You find that Leorian is there sort of casting about, looking to try to figure out the situation. Lissa, to you it is immediately legible. There are sort of ersatz people coming up from the canals to attack the real people, is how you interpret the situation immediately.
Any fury?
Good question. One that shall be answered forthwith. A fairly large intensity of fury, although it is of a ineffable flavor, not human in its origin.
I relay that to Paisha and Leorian. And
Apatia, for her part, draws her daggers and licks her lips as she starts to trot towards one of the figures coming out of the canals.
I do a lesser destruction of fury in the immediate vicinity.
Okay. You feel your miracle take hold, and the ineffable fury around you is lessened, if not entirely eliminated, though the effects of this upon the figures emerging from the canals is not immediately apparent. Whatever it might be, it will have to become observable during the ensuing struggle. Leorian, any particular actions? Alyssa has emerged with Apatia from behind you.
Mm-hmm. I think I draw my lure and prepare to start doing what I can to stop whatever these are from making it any closer to anyone who they might harm. So I think I'm gonna go for a single shot at the biggest cluster of them I can find.
Sure, go ahead and roll your 7+ expert die.
I will do that
for command plus perform music.
I have to set that expert die, I think, to a 6, because this would be our first 2 triple 6s in one session if that were to happen, and that's too delicious to avoid.
Mm-hmm.
That did not happen. However, I did get 4 4s.
Marvelous. You're playing 4s are... literally take the leg off of one of these figures emerging from the canals. There are quite a lot of them, though. Rumnet, you are not in the same spot as these other 2, but in response to your warning, people are fleeing away from the canals and into the sort of interior blocks and alleyways as more and more figures emerge from the canals. It is interesting. They seem to be sort of undefined and a little inky when they first come out, but as they reach the street level, they acquire definition, specificity. I think probably Rumnet, you are baseline observant enough to see that they are taking the forms of those who are fleeing them. No two the same.
Well,
though.
shit. In that event, can I create murders for free at 4?
Let's see. Level 4 miracles are lesser creations. Yes, you may create murders for free. One at a time, anyway.
I will start pointing fingers.
Fair enough.
Just casually finger gunsing them.
So while Romnet is creating murders here and there of the people, figures, things emerging from the canals, what are Lissa and Leorian doing over by the nightcap?
I'm going to ping on Romnet, just to give him a sense of the direction in which we are, hopefully. And I'm also going to pray, assuming none are too close to me, I'll draw Electo just in case, but I'm going to pray to Remolis and Philia.
Okay.
And the prayer is going to be very informal. It's going to be, there's doppelgangers emerging from the canals. What is going on? Help if able.
Excellent, yeah.
Still slightly drunk. Love Lissa.
Yeah.
From Lissa. How do I end a prayer?
No,
How do
love
I turn
Lissa.
this off?
On the heels of your prayer, what's the word I'm looking for here?
Get your cursor off of my scrutinized.
I'm sorry, what?
remove the cursor from the stat upon which it currently exists, because that is a 1 dice pool.
As far as I'm aware, on your character sheet, my cursor is in the URL address bar, so I don't know.
Okay, there we go.
What
That's
was
better.
going on exactly there?
It's safe there. Please proceed now.
Sorry to alarm you.
This is a form of psychological horror to which you, the listener, are not generally privy, which is Adam's cursor in our character sheets.
Nope.
Oh, Lord. Right. So, Lissa, you pray to your friends among the Nobilis of Dagrum, and a sort of squall kicks up above the city. High winds, driving rain, occasional hail. And you ping where Romnet is. It's over in the direction of where you think his house is now. Not immensely far away from you, but out of shouting range.
I try to give myself to Mavia.
Interesting. I'll return to that in just a moment. Leorian, how are you handling this situation?
Well, I think I've proven to myself that picking them off one by one would take quite a while, and I'm also probably a bit disturbed by the doppelgangerarity of the whole situation. I think my first instinct is to ask Lissa, how much violence are we planning to apply here?
Most excellent. Lissa, I would like to get from you a sense plus empathy roll, 2 dice plus a master die.
That's going to be 2 10s.
As soon as you have the thought, you are Mavia. And Leorian is asking you how much violence is warranted here.
I just laugh. And I guess, if you're looking very closely, you may notice that there's not as much of the youthfulness to Mavia's appearance. Same height, same stature, same laugh that you're familiar with. But now, instead of dark tendrils like you've been accustomed to seeing, it's almost two-dimensional. Your eyes can't quite grok what you're looking at first, because it just seems to consume all of the light around it. Excuse me. Edit that out.
That's my fault.
I started laughing from something that you said. So the crown that was previously there on Mavia is now a helm, and it just seems to consume all the light around it. She has become Vanta Black, for lack of a better description. Where there was once darkness, there is now true nothing. And where her tendrils once compelled her forward, now they tend to create a vacuum that pulls.
In the words of the Drawfee channel on YouTube, Vanta Black, the opposite of Vanna White.
I love that.
So, Leorian, the response you get is a slightly unhinged laugh and a transformation into a new and perhaps more self-continuous version of Mavia.
Very well then. What you plan to do, I can make you do a great deal more of.
At the word then, and this doesn't stop you from finishing your statement, Apatia gives a high, sort of wild laugh. I'm going to attempt to do it a little further from a microphone. And leaps upon the nearest of these figures emerging from the canals and does incredible violence to their body with her 2 daggers and her sharp teeth. Balls in your court, Leorian.
I shoulder the lure, I put it away, and I take out the drum, and I begin to demonstrate what I meant and to make it happen. I speed Apatia up, spurring myself on with using sort of her high pitched cackle as a basis. Right, that's my baseline for the tempo of her violence, and I increase it. Taking that waveform such as it is, even though I don't really have that in my head, and compressing it, increasing it, doubling it, tripling it, quadrupling it.
You swear that the look of approval you get now is identical to the one that you received in the bar the same / previous night, whenever that was, when you had your groupies around you. And I stay within your vicinity, knowing the side effects of the drum as well as I do, but the violence is nevertheless committed.
Very well. Romnet, on your end, Thad has emerged with a decorative paperweight in one hand and has begun to lay about himself with it to devastating effect. His biceps are useful for a number of things.
On his character sheet, that's an actual stat. Body biceps.
I'll show you.
Bi-seps.
I'll show you ornamentally
tell
pretty.
Me the boy
he says.
didn't skip leg day, because that'll be a problem.
Skip leg day.
Does he? Oh, this is an important question.
Only very occasionally when he's having a real tough time.
That's fair.
That's
really
Leg day
endearing.
Sucks.
So, Romnet, you have essentially ensured that none of the Fermatans in this area will be killed by these goings-on. How do you proceed?
Oh, I thought we'd established that I was finger gunsing them to death.
Okay, just making sure that we are...
I will take a moment to... How many miracle points would a greater destruction of murder cost me?
A greater destruction of murder, that's going to be a level 8 miracle, so that would cost you 4 domain miracle points, which I don't think you can quite manage.
Nope. I literally do not have a sufficiency of miracle points for it.
Indeed not, although I will point out that a major creation would just tap you out if you could figure out how you wanted to affect
yes,
that.
But what I was actually aiming for there was making it so that Thad would not be murdered.
Fair enough. Honestly, that could be a lesser destruction since it applies to one person.
Okay. I mean, I was aiming for in perpetuity, but sure.
Okay, yeah, I mean, this would last for a more than, like, the day.
All right.
That said, it will cost you 1 miracle point, which will lock you out of being able to do any major creations.
No, I think I will majorly create a murder of the doppelgangers. Just full stop.
Very well. So, would
it be bad if I just Thanos snapped them?
Not necessarily, but for fun, let's say, I would love for you to give me a roll to accompany that miracle of, let's say, I'm going to get crazy with this. Command plus counterspell, 1 plus a master die.
All right.
That was crazy.
Yes, hello, darling. That is a pair of 10s.
All right. Romnet. Chaos has ensued along all the canals throughout the city. Lissa, Leorian, along with Apatia, you have really done a number on the figures emerging from the canals in your immediate area. But then, quite out of your line of sight, but nevertheless not out of your entire awareness, Romnet sort of spreads his arms, palms up, and slowly clenches his fists. And in a radius starting at the walls of the city and closing in to where you are standing, Romnet, the figures emerging from the canals simply crumple where they stand. And after a moment or two lying there insensate on the ground, they simply dissolve into water. Each of them is now a puddle. The storm that accompanies Philia and Remulus, which has lately been reduced to moderate winds and spitting rain, subsuming their puddles on the ground in short order. The commotion of all of this dies down across the city by stages. Thad, for his part, hurls his paperweight into one of the puddles and goes, "Yeah!"
Good for you, Thad.
His paperweight. Paperweight probably came from my desk.
It did, yes.
First your counters, now your paperweights.
Apatia, for her part, finds herself crouched somewhat animalistically in a puddle and then slowly stands up and wipes her mouth and clears her throat.
I do make sure that is okay.
That is fine. He's breathing heavily, a little wild-eyed, but he is uninjured.
I suspect someone is trying to get us to expend our power in petty ways.
They sure fucking succeeded. I have one miracle point left to my name, and it's in friggin' aspect.
Uh-huh.
I, having stopped drumming, say, that's awful.
All at once, the sun dispels all of the gloom above. You're pretty sure it's actually still like 3 a.m. local time. But suddenly you have I'm going to describe it as merciless sun beating down on the city.
Yeah, this is Cirtha.
Mm-hmm.
And a dry, hot wind blows in the opposite direction of Rymulus and Philia's more seaborne draft, causing eddies and steam. And the people who are still in evidence after all of the commotion look around a little confused, a little dazed.
Are you seeking our allegiance, Cirtha?
There's no immediate response, though. Let me double check some stats here.
I will start preaching, for what it's worth, at anyone nearby, that the gods that protect them are under attack, and that perhaps if folks would do their best to believe in nothing, that might help.
You begin to do this. Lissa?
Also, this probably means that Thad's going to be a high priest of one of us.
I suppose we'll see. Lissa, from where you're standing outside of the nightcap next to the canals, you actually feel something a little familiar, but intermittently, as though you're not quite tuned to the right frequency on your radio in the car. That analogy is for our player, not our character. There is a familiarity to the presence that has brought this piercing sunlight to Fermata, and there is a desperation to it. Ventis is here, and she's hurt. And that's where we'll end our session. Our players can each receive 1 mortal experience for this session. Let's make sure to note that down, and I remembered to say it this time.
Hell yeah, you did.
Beautifully done.
Let the record show that was a much less committed laugh than your other one.
Yeah, the other one was
true.
spectacular.
It was not in character this time, though.
It's true. It's true.
So that will conclude this session of Dice Punks. Thanks for joining us. I hope our players and listeners enjoyed it as much as I did, and that you'll all join us again next time. If you're hearing us now, then you probably know where to listen to this, but we can be found almost any place that one can listen to podcasts, as well as on the wider web at dicepunks.com and on Twitter while it lasts as @dicepunks. With that, I think we're ready to say farewell. Say goodbye to the kind folks at home, players.
Thanks for listening. Friends are worth everything. Honesty is hard but worth it, and doppelgangers are very scary.
Thank you for listening, everyone. This is actually recorded the night before New Year's Eve, so I want to share with you one of my resolutions, which is to find a little bit of vacation in every day, and sharing a jovial night with friends and paramours alike is a great way to start.
Thanks for listening, folks. Happy New Year, whenever you listen to us. And sometimes you just have to avoid your emotional responsibilities by training your high priest successor.
I think everybody can relate to that.
Yeah.
There are only 7 plots.
And there were like 3 of them in that sentence.
Well, thank you all. And as the poet once said, hot wind moving fast across the desert. We feel that our time has arrived. The world spins while we put this dream together. Thank you for tuning in, dear listeners, and stick around through the admin stuff for a line from Lissa. The songs in this episode, theme of the Dice Punks in its acoustic version, were written and recorded by the Viscount of Tempo and his element, Drew. Cover art is by Joanne, who has appeared on the podcast now and again. Check out her work around the internet, where she goes by Anything So's. Site design and graphics for dicepunks.com are by Robin, the player behind Lissa and Mavia, the Nobilis of Darkness, Fury, The Forge. Rain and the one-roll engine it runs on were created by Greg Stolze, whose work can be found in a frankly astonishing number of cool places, but I'll point you toward gregstolze.com. Nobilis was created by Jenna Caterin Moran and can be found alongside much of her other work on faransunlessland.wordpress.com. Links to both systems and authors can be found on the Punk Grimoire section of our website, dicepunks.com. Thanks so much for listening. If you liked what you heard, that's reward enough on its own, but if you're so inclined, you can help us out by rating and reviewing us wherever you listen to us, telling your friends who you think would like us to give us a listen, and even by heading over to our Patreon at patreon.com/dicepunks. We have fun rewards available to backers, including a patron-only Discord, and access to the Dice Peaks After Show for episodes 1 and following. Regardless, we hope you'll tune in again, and until then, remember, subtlety is for cowards.
I once had a surprising commission from an equally unexpected client. I remember it like it was yesterday. She looked out of place in my forge with her pristine hair and clothing, nails as carefully manicured as the affect of her voice. A refined gem out of its setting, not unlike the precious cargo cupped gingerly in her hands. The necklace she brought me was crafted by a younger and, I dare say, a rather inexperienced welder. But what was already imperfect work had been further marred under a cruel heel in an effort to crush both necklace and spirit alike. With a carefully stoic mask of a face, the good lady implored me to fix it. First, she asked me to reinforce it, to make the necklace impossible to bend, even under the most aggressive of assaults. This, of course, was impossible without also concealing the rainbow gleams of the gem's facets. I explained as much to her, and so she asked to hide that the damage was ever done at all. This was another promise I could not make. Even if I could hammer out the damage, the metal itself would remember how and where it bent to avoid breaking. To all other eyes, it would remain perfect and impervious. To her gaze, however, it would be perfectly imperfect. The subtle ripple of its surface a constant reminder of something painful. I couldn't undo what had been done. That much was impossible. But what I could promise was this: a new filigree to the setting. A swirling design that bent with the imperfection, rather than drew attention to it. I worked overnight. She returned the next morning, the same satin and lace figure contrasting against my soot and iron. But when I handed her the finished product, she smiled, a rare, sincere smile, and the differences between us suddenly felt less insurmountable. The moment passed. She tried to pass me coin. I refused. But she pressed far, far too much on my counter instead and left with her chin raised defiantly. She never visited me again. I've shared with you many anecdotes, some crude, some kind, but all delivered with the good intentions of how a simple word or act could bring us closer to one another and ourselves. The truth is that we all carry something like that necklace with us, something that we wish we could repair or fix in a specific way, which leads me to perhaps my most important word of advice yet. Focus on the healing, not the crushing heel. It's only when we address with quiet compassion whatever shape we adopted to avoid breaking altogether that we can truly appreciate the little whorls and subtle blemishes in others as vulnerable art instead of irreparable damage. As far as that broken necklace was concerned, I have it on good authority that its owner wore that gift until the day she died. And even after, when her death was consecrated unto nothing itself.